Hi everyone, a very good afternoon. I hope everybody can hear me, see me. Yes, I hope everybody can hear me, see me. All right, so let's go ahead with the classes. Just a second. All right, great. So guys, let's go ahead with our American poetry and let me in the comment section if everything is good. Hi Fatima, hi Karthik, good afternoon everyone. So today we are going ahead with American poetry. It's a very seminal lecture, guy, very detailed one. I will be discussing movements also over here. So make sure that everyone is very clear on this subject. So guys, before I go ahead, let me tell you, as I always mention, that the course is available, paid course, in which a very thorough preparation of the UGC NET exam would be there. English literature, paper 1 as well as paper 2. Guys, 4359 से भी ज़्यादा डिस्काउंट आने लगा है. Once you go on the description link, आप जब बैच परचेज करोगे, मेरा कोड लगाओगे AR Live, you will get further discount. So it's a very good deal because you are getting very good quality content in very कम, बहुत ही ज़्यादा कम prices में. So it's just a total gain. Okay, it's a complete gain in this. All right, so let's go ahead with this. I hope everyone is okay. So let's go ahead with this. Walt Whitman, just a second. Okay. Okay. Walt Whitman 1819 से लेकर 1892 तक. Influence: considered the good grey bard, Whitman played a crucial role in shaping American poetry. So now we are considering Walt Whitman as the quintessential, the first writer, the first poet of the American literature, very very seminal poet. तो अगर हम लोग जैसे हमारे के रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर है, वैसे ही वहाँ पे वॉल्ट विटमैन को कंसिडर किया जाता है, वेरी सेमिनल पोएट. सो ओवर हियर वी कैन सी influence considered the good grey bard. Whitman played a crucial role in shaping American poetry. His presence loomed over the 20th century poetic scene even after his death. Okay, so even after his death, he was a very popular one. Style: he is famous for using free verse which lacks a regular meter and rhyme scheme, making poetry more natural and expressive. इनके important works क्या क्या हैं? Leaves of Grass, that is 1855. His magnum opus revives multiple times, celebrated democracy, individualism, and nature. Okay, so Leaves of Grass 1855 is a very, very important seminal work. And then you have Song of Myself, a major poem in Leaves of Grass exploring self-identity and universal connection. ओ कैप्टन माय कैप्टन, ये अब्राहम लिंकन के ऊपर इन्हें पोएम लिखी थी, जो कि अभी तक बहुत ही ज़्यादा पॉपुलर है, चलती है अमेरिका में. स्टिल पीपल रीड इट आउट. एंड एन एलिजी फॉर अब्राहम लिंकन, एंड ऑफ कोर्स इट इज़ वेरी मच आस्क्ड इन द UGC NET exam. All right. So this Walt Whitman becomes a very, very important writer, considered the good grey bard. Okay, remember him from this perspective for sure. Now we are moving ahead to another important American poet, and that is Emily Dickinson. This is the Emily Dickinson picture, guys. Emily Dickinson की बहुत बड़ा over है, बहुत सारे उन्होंने poetry लिखी है. But we will first look at all the key works. Key works कौन कौन से हैं उनके? That is Emily Dickinson, 1830. Influence: Dickinson's poetry was highly innovative, yet largely unpublished in her lifetime. Her works gained recognition in the early 20th century. Short lines थी इनकी, slant rhyme and unconventional punctuation. Themes include death, immortality and nature. Okay, so Emily Dickinson का ये work है 1830 से लेकर 1886 तक. इनका birth year, death year, and these were the key points. What were all the key poems इनकी कौन कौन सी हैं? Because I could not stop for death, a very seminal work frequently asked in the exam. ये poem क्या कहता है? It personifies death as a gentle carriage driver taking the speaker on a peaceful journey towards eternity. I heard a fly buzz when I died, captures the final moments of life with unsettling imagery, emphasizing the uncertainty of death. Hope is the thing with feathers, ये एक और इनका वर्क है, that is poetry, uses a bird as a metaphor for hope, showing resilience despite a lot of hardship, and there's a certain slant of light. This explores the effect of winter light on human emotions, associating it with despair. And I am nobody, who are you? This challenges societal expectations, embracing anonymity over fame, and my life had stood a loaded gun, uses the metaphor of a gun to express latent power and agency, possibly hinting at themes of gender and control. So guys, these were the all important poems of Emily Dickinson. If you want to explore more about Emily Dickinson, very good. Why? Because Emily Dickinson is a very, very important poet when it comes to American literature. Okay, so make sure this is American Dickinson. That is the photo of her. All right, okay. Next, we are moving ahead, and that is Ezra Pound. Now, Ezra Pound is another American poet that is to be considered very, very seminally. You have to make sure that you're learning it in a very significant manner. 1885 se lekar 1972. Okay, that is the birth year, the death year. He was a key figure in modernist poetry, and Pound shaped the Images movement and later Vorticism. तो Images movement और Vorticism का shape किसने किसको, जो पूरा का पूरा ये लिटरेरी मूवमेंट था, अभी हम इसके बारे में और पढ़ेंगे, इमेजिज्म और वॉटिज्म के बारे में, लिटरेरी मूवमेंट के बारे में. दिस वाज पायनियर्ड बाय एजरा पाउंड एंड ही फोकस्ड ऑन प्रिसाइज इमेजरी. मतलब वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा लंबे इलाबोरेटेड सेंटेंसेस पे नहीं बिलीव करते थे. कहते थे एक अगर तुम्हें एक पोइट्री में एक्सप्रेशन डालना है तो प्रिसाइज इमेजरी, एक छोटे से वर्ड्स में ही एक इमेज का शेप दो, एंड दैट इज मोर देन इम्पॉर्टेंट. इकोनॉमिक यूज ऑफ वर्ड, इकोनॉमिक मतलब कम, इकोनॉमिकली छोटा सा कम यूजेस ऑफ वर्ड्स होते थे, ज़्यादा यूजेस ऑफ वर्ड्स नहीं करते थे. एंड लेटर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट एंड डायनामिक पोएटिक स्ट्रक्चर. सो दिस इज एजरा पाउंड, a very seminal work, and you can look at the picture of Ezra Pound. इनके important works कौन से? Reposts. This was a collection that introduces imagist ideas, emphasizing clarity and precision. Kathe, 1915, a collection of Chinese poems. Chinese poem का translation था Kathe, capturing the beauty and conciseness of classical Chinese poetry. Okay, so Kathe was a Chinese collection also Ezra Pound has translated. The Cantos, okay, Pound का most ambitious work जो कि blend करता है historical, political and literary themes across more than 100 sections. And in A Station of the Metro, a 2-line poem that exemplifies imagism और compare करता है faces in a metro station, 2 petals on a wet black bow. Okay, so this is in A Station to the Metro in 1913. Hugh Sylvan Moberly, 1920, a critique of modern society and the failures of World War I. And this features autobiographical elements, homage to sexist, Propertius, 1919. ये एक और work था जो कि the reinterpretation of Latin poetry, blending ancient and modern themes. So guys, this entire slide on Ezra Pound is very important. If you want, you can take a screenshot of it. I definitely will share the PPT also in the Dr. Anamta Rizvi English Literature Telegram channel. But if you want to take a note of this, you guys can go ahead with it. It's a very, very important slide. Okay, so this is Ezra Pound. Next you have, okay, hi, good afternoon everyone. Next you have, guys, Images movement. क्या था Images movement? This was founded, a literary movement. This was founded in 1912 by Ezra Pound. Remember this, Imagism was a movement जो बहुत ही कहता था कि अगर आपको अपनी पोइट्री में कोई इमेज देनी है तो आप कम वर्ड्स में दिए, कम वर्ड्स में देंगे तो रीडर के दिमाग में वो बैठ जाएगा. तो Imagism was all about that, focused on very clear direct images, direct treatment of subject, and avoided unnecessary words. मतलब precise words, economic words, come words. Key poets and their works. Hilda Doolittle was a key poet. इसका imagism का, she was once writing a lot of images poem. Use Greek myths and nature imagery. इनके कौन से works है Hilda Doolittle के? Sea Garden, images poet है, याद रखना. Sea Garden 1916. अब Sea Garden ही को you can imagine Can you imagine a sea with a garden? So that was a very concise images that they used to have. This was a collection exploring the natural world with precision. Helen reimagines Helen of Troy, focusing on themes of beauty and blame. So we all know Trojan War ka Helen, and this was it. Then Richard Aldington was another one. So Ezra Pound ke alawa हमारे पास Hilda Doolittle है, Richard Aldington. These all poets were of the images poet. Okay, and known for war and urban life poetry and images, a collection of short striking poems in the images style. Death of a Hero. This was a novel that reflects the trauma of World War I, heavily influenced by his poetic style. So can you see images movement ka Ezra Pound, a very important one, Hilda Doolittle and Richard Aldington, the major poets over here. Then you have next one, and that is Edwin Arlington Robinson. Ye hamare, he's apart from the images movement. So we have Ezra Pound, we have Hilda Doolittle, and we have Richard Aldington. Okay, so these were the poets of the images movement. Now we are going ahead to Edward Arlington Robinson. He was the most significant American poet before Ezra Pound. इनका इतना नाम मशहूर नहीं है guys, but in American literature he is very well versed, very well known as a very prominent poet before Ezra Pound. He is known for psychological depth and human struggles. Okay, so this is Edward Arlington Robinson. Okay, and then you have important works इनके कौन से Edwin Arlington के. Miniver Cheevy 1910 का work है, a satirical poem about a man longing for a romanticized past. Okay, Richard Cory 1897 का work है, a poem that is about a wealthy man who appears happy but ultimately takes his own life, challenging the illusion of material success, the modern world. Okay, The Children of the Night, a collection that introduced themes of existential struggle and personal despair. So can you see the amount of psychological depth that we can feel कि हाँ हर poem में होगी, because it is dealing with psychology, emotions. The Man Against the Sky, a collection that explores the contrast between human aspirations and the reality of life. Merlin, a narrative poem reimagining the legend of King Arthur and Merlin. And Tristram 1927, a long poem that is based on the medieval romance of Tristan and Isolde, which won him the Pulitzer Prize. Okay, so this becomes a very seminal work. Edward Arlington Robinson, 1869 to 1935. Make sure that yes, you are giving a lot of focus to this poet. Okay, then next you have Vorticism. Now we are coming to another important movement. Imagism के अलावा हमारा एक और American literary movement है जो बहुत ही ज़्यादा important था. That is Vorticism. Vorticism was also developed by Ezra Pound in the 1910s. Concept this opposed traditional poetic forms and rejected moralizing. Vorticism was कि जो ट्रेडिशनल आइडिया था मॉरलाइजिंग का कि हर पोइट्री में, वर्क में, ड्रामा में, नॉवल में मॉरल होना चाहिए, कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. एज़रा पाउंड ने कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, मॉरल ना भी हो तभी भी अच्छी बात है. This influenced avant-garde movement and modernist literature. Okay, so Vorticism was opposed traditional poetic forms and rejected moralizing. Traditional poetic forms were long lines, verbose lines, so much of ornate language. इन्होंने बोला कम lines में लिखो, economical words में लिखो, and he said that please make sure that it does not need to be moralistic. Moralistic ना भी हो तभी भी चलेगा. So key Vortices works कौन से थे? Blast. जो Blast 1914 and 1950 ये magazine थी. Vorticism movement की. A Blast was the magazine, a Vorticist magazine edited by Wyndham Lewis and with contributions from Ezra Pound. So Ezra Pound इसमें contribute करते थे. Vorticism basically Ezra Pound का ही movement था. Wyndham Lewis Ezra Pound के friend थे. उन्होंने Blast magazine निकाली, उसको वो edit करते थे और Ezra Pound ने इसमें बहुत contribute किया है. Gaudier Brzeska, a memoir, Pound contribute to sculptor Henry Gaudier Brzeska, incorporating Vorticist ideas into prose. Okay, so Blast and Gaudier Brzeska becomes two very seminal works. Then next you have T.S. Eliot, 1888 to 1965. Alright, so we know that T.S. Eliot कितना seminal work है, इनके poet है, इन्होंने Nobel Prize भी जीता है. He is very important, very famous. Okay, so initially mentored by Ezra Pound. So Ezra Pound, can you see that Ezra Pound has played such a seminal role? जैसे मुझे अभी लगता है जैसे कि जैसे निस्म म्यूजिकल ने इंडियन इंग्लिश पोइट्री को एक बढ़ावा दिया है, पोइट्स को गाइड किया है, वैसे एजरा पाउंड डिड द सेम थिंग. ओके, सो जैसे एजरा पाउंड वहां पे थे, वैसे निस्म म्यूजिकल इंडिया के लिए थे, इंडियन इंग्लिश पोइट्स के लिए थे. ओके, सो he was the one, Ezra Pound was the one to mentor T.S. Eliot, and Eliot became the most influential modernist poet. His poetry is highly elusive. Elusive मतलब ग्रीक माइथोलॉजी को वो फोकस कर रहा है, क्लासिकल वर्क को के बारे में बात कर रहा है, बुद्धिस्ट लिटरेचर, दिस एंड दैट एंड एवरीथिंग. ओके, फ्रैगमेंटेड होती थी, डीपली इंटेलेक्चुअल, वेरी वेरी इंटेलेक्चुअल एंड फिल्ड विद लिटरेरी, मैथोलॉजिकल एंड फिलोसॉफिकल रेफरेंसेस. It explores themes of alienation, despair and spiritual disintegration in the modern world. Okay, इनके important works क्या क्या होते थे? The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a dramatic monologue in which Prufrock, an insecure and anxious man, contemplates his fears, failures and inability to act decisively. Famous line, do I dare disturb the universe? And themes, isolation, modern existential crisis, indecisiveness, time and the fear of aging. Okay, so this becomes a very important one. T.S. Eliot ka ye hai. All right, next you have The Wasteland. 1922 का इनका जो Wasteland का work था, I have talked a bit about this poem because we know that how important the work is. Soon I will be taking one detailed class on Wasteland also. All right, so Wasteland 1922 का, this was the landmark year wherein it actually was a watershed event, आप बोलोगे, wherein Wasteland completely changed the scenario of modern poetry. Why? Because it was a landmark poem divided into 5 sections that reflect the moral and spiritual emptiness of the World War I. Okay, you can look at T.S. Eliot over here. Famous line इनकी क्या है? April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land. There are many famous lines, but I've just picked up one. बहुत सारी famous lines हैं ऐसी T.S. Eliot के Wasteland की. He uses multiple voices and fragmented structure to portray despair and the search for meaning. The Hollow Men, इनकी The Hollow Men एक और work है 1925 का. This explores the moral decay of individuals in a world that lacks faith. Okay, famous line Hollow Men की, this is the way the world ends, not with a bang but a whimper. It's a very very famous line. Themes, spiritual emptiness, paralysis and despair. Okay, Four Portraits कब लिखी गई है? 1935 से लेकर 1942 तक. A deeply philosophical work meditating on time, spirituality and human experience, and this draws inspiration from Christian theology, Eastern philosophy and Dante. Okay, so this becomes a very very important one. T.S. Eliot. Robert Frost. Now we are coming to Robert Frost, and we know that Robert Frost, so many times he has won the Pulitzer Prize, at least 4 times he's won the Pulitzer Prize, and yes, he again becomes a very seminal poet of American literature. So you have over here Robert Frost, 1874 to 1963, influence and style, one of America's most celebrated poets, known for his simple yet deeply reflected poetry. Uses traditional forms but infuse them with modern themes of uncertainty, choice and nature's significance in human life. He focused on New England rural life. तो उसकी जो अमेरिका में जो न्यू इंग्लैंड रूरल लाइफ है उसके वहाँ पे उस जगह पे उसने फोकस किया था, while exploring universal existential dilemmas. The Road Not Taken, इनकी बहुत important work है. The Road Not Taken, a poem about life choices, their consequences. Famous lines, 2 roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. Okay, often misinterpreted as promoting individualism. However, this becomes a seminal work. Next इनका work है Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, 1923. A deceptively simple poem. It's a very simple poem that hints at deeper existential reflection. Famous line, miles to go before I sleep. I'm sure everyone knows this. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. ये इसका second poem है. Then third and fourth, the numbering is wrong, just ignore that. Then you have Mending Wall. इनकी बहुत poems है लेकिन बस मैंने कुछ यहाँ पे लिखा है. Mending Wall 1914 is another seminal poem. A conversation between 2 neighbors rebuilding a wall, and they are questioning the need for boundaries. Very famous line, good fences make good neighbors. Yeah, guys, this has come in the exam. And Fire and Ice, a short yet profound poem about destruction. Famous line, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. Okay, so this is your Robert Frost. Next, you have Amy Lowell. Amy Lowell, again, very influential and a very important poet. And influence and style इनका क्या है? So she is a major advocate for imagism. What was imagism? जहाँ पे हम few words को use करके एक पोएट्री, जब हम पोएट्री लिखेंगे तो few words को use करके एक image बनाएंगे ताकि readers बहुत आराम से उसको image को imagine कर लें. That was imagism. So she was the one who used imagism a lot, and which emphasized precision, clarity, and vivid imagery, took over the images movement after Ezra Pound left, used free verse and created sharp, sensory experiences in her poetry, impact works. A woman reflected on her lost lover and the constraint of societal expectations, themed gender roles, repression, and fate. Sword Blades and Poppy Seeds, a collection showcasing her images principles. This was another collection. Men, Women, and Ghost. Alag inka collection tha 1916 ka. A mix of narratives and modernist poetry. All right, yes, exactly. Okay. Okay, good. A lot of students ne Robert Frost padhaya. I can see a lot of students are answering me, which is a very good thing. Guys, now we have William Carlos Williams. William Carlos Williams, also a very important one. He rejected European influences in poetry and he developed a uniquely American poetic voice. So William Carlos Williams was the one जिन्होंने American poetic voice को बनाने में बहुत कोशिश किया था, and he also made it very very authentically American influence से करके, and British influence को बहुत ही कम किया था. Okay, so focused on everyday objects and experiences. The Red Wheelbarrow इनका बहुत important work है. A minimalist poem, मतलब बहुत ही कम words को use करके poem आया था, that captures importance of ordinary things. Famous lines, so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. Okay, so this is a very famous line asked frequently in the exam. Okay, so the red wheelbarrow, theme simplicity, perception, and significance in the mundane. This is just to say 1934 ka work hai, a very short poem apologizing for eating plums from the fridge. Okay, so this is a very cute poem, a very simple poem. Just a second, guys. So this is a very simple poem in which the poet is apologizing that I am eating plum. Plums are fruits hote hain. So he's eating plum from the fridge. Everyday life के बारे में है, human emotions के बारे में, and relationships के बारे में. Patterson, a long complex poem जो कि reflect करता है American identity through the city of Patterson, New Jersey. Okay, so William Carlos Williams का ये work है. Next you have Harlem Renaissance. Now we're talking about Harlem Renaissance. What was that movement? Harlem Renaissance and Alan Locke. Okay, now a major cultural movement in the 20th century that celebrated African American art. Okay, Harlem Renaissance was a very very important movement that started in New York in African American literature and music. This was centered in Harlem. Harlem एक कॉलोनी थी जहाँ पे African Americans रहते थे. Okay, और न्यूयॉर्क में ये of course ये हार्लम है, with artists rejecting racial stereotypes and promoting black identity. तो जितने भी African Americans थे, they said that we are very proud of a black identity और हम अपनी black identity को promote करेंगे because we have pride in it. So इन्हीं ने they used to reject completely racial stereotypes and said that we have our own voice, we have our own literature and we are very proud of it. Key figures Harlem Renaissance में कौन-कौन थे? Alan Locke. Alan Locke was the one who coined the term Harlem Renaissance, and it was Alan Locke. Alan Locke coined the term New Negro Renaissance, Harlem Renaissance, and his writing encouraged black artists to embrace their heritage. Then you have Langston Hughes, a leading Harlem Renaissance poet, and the Negro speaks of rivers. This Langston Hughes का ये बहुत famous work है, connects African heritage to American identity. I too, a response to racial inequality, emphasizing black pride. So you have Alan Locke, Langston Hughes, and Claude McKay. Claude McKay ने लिखा था If We Must Die, 1919 का work था, a very powerful sonnet जो कि advocate करता था for resistance against racial oppression. So yes, Harlem Renaissance was very important for racial studies to come in the future. And yes, it was all about taking assertion, taking pride over your black identity. Langston Hughes, now talking about Langston Hughes, if we talk about this, influence and style, one of the most prominent figures of the Harlem Renaissance and a major voice for African American culture. His work reflected the struggles of Black Americans, often drawing from jazz, rhymes, and oral traditions. He wrote poetry that was both politically sharp, lyrical, celebrating Black identity. Important works: The Negro Speaks of Rivers, 1921. The Negro Speaks of Rivers, a very powerful poem जो कि connect करता है the African movement experience to great rivers in history. Famous line: I have known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of humans. Okay, so the Negro Speaks of Rivers. Make sure that you're reading this work. Why? Because Langston Hughes का ये बहुत important work है. Themes: African heritage, endurance, and historical depth are the themes in his works. I too इनका एक और work है Langston Hughes का, a response to Walt Whitman's I Hear America Singing. Okay, ये I too Langston Hughes ने Walt Whitman की जो poem थी I Hear America Singing, तो उसने बोला था I too. Okay, तो उसका response ये आया था, asserting the inclusion of black voices in American identity. So Walt Whitman was a white guy, right? उसने लिखा I Hear America Singing. And black guy Langston Hughes said that yes, I too. It's a beautiful, you can say, a thought. Famous line: I too sing America, themes racism, resilience, and hope for equality. Then comes Harlem. Ask what happens to deferred dreams, leading to the famous last line, or does it explode? Harlem, एक और इनका work था Langston Hughes का Harlem Renaissance पे. Harlem, again I'm telling you, it was a colony. It was kind of a place where all African black Americans used to live there. Let America Be America Again, 1936. This criticizes the failure of the American dream for marginalized communities. Okay, so this is a little disillusioned poem, and that is Let America Be America Again. Langston Hughes. Now we're coming to Claude McKay. Claude McKay, born in Jamaica. This is Claude McKay, guys, and was a key Harlem Renaissance poet. He often wrote in traditional sonnet forms, combining classical structure with radical poets. So Alan Locke, Langston Hughes, Claude McKay, all these are Harlem Renaissance poets. Address themes of Renaissance, racism, resistance, and African American identity. Right. If We Must Die, 1919 का ये poem है, a sonnet urging black people to find against oppression. Famous line: like men we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. There's aggression. Can you feel the aggression in these lines? So yes, Claude McKay had aggressive, powerful lines. America, 1921, a complex poem expressing both love and critique of the US, themes of patriotism, oppression, and endurance. Harlem Shadows, okay, a collection of poems addressing the struggles of black urban life. Then you have Beat Generation poets. Guys, now who were Beat Generation poets? Now this becomes a very similar, very important one. Key figures कौन है? Please इसको याद कर लें. Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and William S. Burroughs. These were the poets of the Beat Generation, known for spontaneous prose. The leading poet of the movement, that is, Jack Kerouac, was known for the spontaneous prose. Allen Ginsberg was the leading poet of this movement, Beat Generation. William S. Burroughs was the one who experimented an avant-garde prose writer. Okay, they rejected the formalist constraints of earlier poetry movements. They focused on spontaneity. They focused on raw emotion and counter-cultural themes inspired by jazz, Buddhism, drug experiences, and political protest. So ये इनका influence था. They were very different. जो conventional poets होते थे उससे बहुत different, unconventional poetry लिखते थे. Different themes. They used to roam across the world, and they also came to India. तो इनका बहुत ही different lifestyle था, subject थे इनके poetry के. सबसे important poet अगर Beat Generation का हम देखेंगे तो वो Howl है. Howl, 1956, Allen Ginsberg. Okay, this is a long, free-flowing poem जो कि attack करता है materialism and conformity in America. Famous lines: I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. Okay, so this becomes Howl, Allen Ginsberg. Themes: rebellion, sexuality, anti-capitalism, and mental illness. On the Road, this is Howl is a very important poem, guys. If you want, please make sure that you're reading it. On the Road by Jack Kerouac, एक novel था ये. This was a novel. It embodies the poetic ideals of the beat movement. On the Road, Jack Kerouac, a very famous work. Then you have, okay, all right, and a surreal fragmented work reflecting on addiction and corruption. Okay, Naked Lunch kiska tha? Naked Lunch was by William S. Burroughs. This was a surreal fragmented work reflecting on addiction and corruption. So yes, important jo works hai, Howl, a poem by Allen Ginsberg, On the Road by Jack Kerouac, and Naked Lunch was by William S. Burroughs. The three very key seminal figures of beat movement, and you are with their works. Then you have next Robert Lowell. Robert Lowell was a confessional poetry. इनका लिखते थे guys. Important again. Originally a formalist, Robert Lowell later pioneered confessional poetry. So confessional poetry अगर किसने शुरू की है तो वो Robert Lowell थे. Okay, it was not any other poet, but Robert Lowell started with confessional poetry. He emphasized personal experiences and raw emotions, and his work often explored mental illness, personal struggles, and political issues, and he shifted from historical themes to deeply personal narratives. Okay, you can see Robert Lowell over here. This is his picture, and more of his works. इनके important works कौन से थे? Robert Lowell के Life Studies 1959 में. This was a landmark collection that introduced confessional poetry, themes of mental illness, family conflicts, and self-reflection. For the Union Debt इनका एक और work था, and this was a meditation on American history, race, and the Civil War. Themes: political disillusionment, history, and memory. Skunk R 1959 में, a personal poem that reflects on mental breakdown and loneliness, and famous line, my mind's not right. Waking early Sunday morning, another one, a political critique of the Vietnam War and Cold War America. This was written in 1967. Okay, so these were all the works by Lowell, and this who was the pioneer of confessional poetry. So guys, with this I'm coming to an end of the American poetry poets. If you want to go deep into it, then do attend my paid classes. That is only for 4359. इस पे further discount चल रहा है आजकल guys. The cost is around for 3000 something. You can use my code AR Live. You're getting paper 1 as well as paper 2 and a very detailed analytical study of the entire 10 units. अभी हम लोग prose and novels के section पे we've done poetry and we've done drama. So धीरे धीरे the entire course will be done. But if you want to go ahead with it, you guys can definitely go ahead, and सारे आपको recorded lectures मिलेंगे. And now onwards, you can, if you join my course today, you can attend my live classes every day. That happens from 9 to 10 in the morning. In case you're not able to attend, you can watch the recorded lectures, and whatever suits you. You will get the PDF, you will get the notes and everything. So okay, all right. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you Saurabh, thank you Anshu, and we are going to go ahead with more comprehensive. इसी तरह से हम लोग और भी comprehensive lessons लाने वाले हैं. So stay tuned and please do like the session and subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and I hope to see you in the paid classes as well. And to all my YouTube students as well as paid students, इसका PPT आपको मिल जाएगा Dr. Anamta Rizvi English Literature के Telegram channel पे. So if you haven't joined it, so do join that Telegram channel. So thank you Shivani, Meenakshi, Menka, Fatima, Anshu, Saurabh, everyone. Thank you everyone, and I'll see all of you tomorrow. Bye-bye.